I think it's extremely important now more than ever to set yourself up for a potential relationship with a brand. And you do that by creating value when you talk about, those skill sets.
That was Lauren Grier, and this is episode 95 of the Chopped Podcast. Hey everyone, I'm Marley of the blog Namely Marley. I am your host, and this is the Chopped Podcast. It is the podcast designed for people just like you, bloggers who love food. Every week, my goal is to share with you thoughts, stories, interviews, everything related to food blogging so we can all learn together about what works with food blogging and maybe even a little bit about what doesn't. Today, I'm talking to Lauren Grier. She's of the site Climbing Grier Mountain, and we are talking about the art of the pitch because one way to monetize the hard work that you do on your blog every day is to begin working with brands, sponsored posts. That's what we're talking about. Of course, we've talked about different angles of sponsored posts on this podcast before, but mostly they've dealt with, networking with brands or, just how to increase the number of brands that you're working with. But today, Lauren and I are talking about the art of the pitch because your first interactions with anybody, let alone somebody you might be, a future working partner, is so important. And when you've identified the right brand or brands that you want to work with, the next step is to, of course, figure out the best way to present yourself and to get your foot in the door and start working with them. So Lauren has a 4-step pitch process. I think you're going to love it. I can't wait to share it with you. Okay, everybody, can you tell I've got a bit of a cold? I've got that kind of nasally sound. Yesterday, it was actually a lot of a cold. So today, it's a little bit better. And I know I've said this to you before, but the one thing I love about being sick is that it raises the bar on normal. Like when you're sick, you feel so bad that when you finally get back to normal, it feels awesome. So that's what I'm really looking forward to right now. I know, sounds kind of bad, but that's just my life. That's my brain. But also, this is my last chance to talk with you about Chopped Conference because it's happening next week and I'm really excited. And more than anything today, I just want to say a big thank you to my 3 co-hosts. And those are Lauren Grier, Kara Anzus, and Fee Kelnhofer. I'm just so impressed with their amazing work guiding this process along. They've all been fantastic. You know how you've ever been on a team and you just think, oh, why do I have to be on this team? Like in college or whatever. But this was an example of one of those teams that you just can't wait to be on because we had a great combination of honesty, fun, cooperation, and just really out to make the conference the best ever. So I feel like they've all been fantastic. I recommend you follow them on Instagram, whatever. They are just great people and very fun to work with. If you'd like to come and see the great conference that we planned for you, go to choppedcon.com/register. I hope to see you there. Okay, let's get straight to today's feature interview with Lauren Grier. Put on those earbuds, turn up the volume, and let's talk about all things food blogging and so much more. Hey everyone, I'm happy to have Lauren Grier of the site Climbing Grier Mountain on the show today. Hey Lauren, welcome to the Chopped Podcast.
Hi, so glad to be here.
I'm so glad to have you. And I just have to start out by telling everybody that today is actually extra special because you're on the podcast and you're also a co-host of the Chopped Conference. And I'm just loving working with you. I'm really having a good time.
Yeah, so excited. I think it's going to be a great conference this year. We got some really great sponsors. It's just going to be a lot of fun. So get ready, Kansas City. Yeah.
And I just want everybody to know it's going to be such a great conference because of your work on it too. So I'm really, really thrilled to be working with you. So
yeah, very excited.
And so today, we're going to be talking about your site, and we're also going to be talking about how you got that started, and also your work with pitching to brands, which is kind of, it really relates closely to what you're going to be moderating a panel at the conference on working with brands. So I'm really loving how this is working together so well. Yeah, I think what would be kind of cool if we could just take a step back and if you could tell everybody why it is that you started your blog.
Sure. I actually didn't start off as a food blogger. I actually was a lifestyle blogger specifically. Back in 2007, my husband and I were living in Chicago, and he got a job transfer to Denver. We arrived, I think, what was it, fall of 2007. And it was just a complete change of lifestyle compared to Chicago living. Everything here is centered around being outdoors and the weather. And there's just so much to do in terms of you can snow ski, hike, raft, fly fish. And so we really, I wanted to be able to share all the stuff we were doing with our family back home because we're both born and raised in Kansas and our family is in Kansas City. And we thought this was, a good way to share that information. So this is like back when blogging was first starting. I
Wild
remember,
West.
yes. And I remember my husband had a Blogspot account and I was like, or creepy creeperton, why are you online? This is weird. People still what are you doing? But so, cause I didn't even have a Facebook account. I was so just anti-online everything. So he was just like, just start it, babe. It'll be fine. So I did and started taking pictures and documenting what we were doing. And that kind of, just morphed and people read about it. And, it was basically my mother saying, hi, way to go. That's great. You're skiing. And, fast forward a year, 2008, working in the financial industry, I lost my job because of the big market crash. I was working for, a really big corporation and, it was just a really finicky time, just kind of massive chaos. And, rather than just to keep myself occupied and keeping, steady and looking for a job, I was, a newlywed at the time. And I was like, you know what? I really need to learn how to cook. I was just this is something I need to do for survival of marriage 101. And this is the time too when Food Network, Giada was just starting out and, that whole thing was going on. And I was like, you know what, if I can watch these, shows and then replicate the recipes at home, then, I always kind of kept my husband's grandmother in my mind. If you can read, you can cook. So I was like, okay, if she says I can do this, I can do this. So that's what I did. I would replicate and, make these recipes at home. And I will never forget this. I actually was creating a recipe from Giada. I think it was for swordfish steaks with an aioli, which might as well have been Mandarin speaking because I didn't know what an aioli was. It was terrible. So I go to the store, I get all the fixings. I'm looking for brioche because I don't even know what that is. And I go home and I have these 5-ounce swordfish, solid frozen pieces of steak, just you could bang it against the counter, it's not thawed at all. And I fire up a skillet, put an obscene amount of olive oil in there, and just crank it to high heaven heat. Anyways, so I just toss it in there no bigs. And basically the smoke alarm started going off, oil's zinging from the pan. And my husband walks in and he was like, babe, what are you doing? What are you doing? And I'm just deer in the headlights, have no idea what's going on. And he was just like, hun, you need to turn the heat off the stove. You got to take it off the burner. And I'm just like, okay, it's fine. So basically I grew from there and kind of felt like, you know what, if I can do this and get better, then I can teach everybody else. So I basically started what is called Foodie Fridays.
Yes.
And every Friday I would share just a recipe about what I learned. And that just kind of morphed into food blogging. And from there, it just got more and more recipes. And I just really fell in love with it because I didn't grow up being wanting to be in the kitchen. My mother always cooked. She was my aunt's a trained chef. My grandmother's a wonderful cook. But I had just had no interest in it until, obviously survival kicked in. And I was like, I probably should learn how to feed my husband and maybe our future children. So, born out of necessity in that way. So that's how I kind of morphed into food blogging. It was just, sheer experience and just trying to get better at it.
I love that story though, because think how many people would quit when something like that happened, forget it, I'm not going to do this anymore, but just kind of let that be a learning experience and move on. That's what we should always do.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I feel like failure is your best friend,
Yeah.
really. I think that the more that you fail, the better that you'll be at the end of the day. You just continue to learn and grow,
But more
you
than
know?
that, it's like how you handle that failure. If you can just like laugh it off and move on, that's probably the best way to approach it rather than like me, I'd be like, you're such an idiot or, really coming down on myself.
Right.
It's not a good way to be.
Right. It's just, I think cooking is just one of those things where until you're in there doing it and, just learning and growing, it's one of the few
Yeah.
ones that you just sort of like, you can just totally immerse yourself in this and fail completely. And you can
Yes.
literally just get back in the kitchen and do it again. Go to the
Yes.
store and head back into it.
Right. So, how about food photography? Because I mean, that is something that not a lot of people have when they first start their blog. Did you feel like you had food photography down?
No. Oh my gosh. If you go back to like a bunch of bloggers, like we started out with point and shoot and just,
Yes.
just super like, wow, did that really just flash happen with like, I have a pumpkin soup on there, I think with like, an orange napkin and yellow lighting and with like a dollop of sour cream on it. It's atrocious. Actually, it's for fun. Just go on there and look it up. But yeah, no, photography didn't. I love taking pictures. I mean, just from a lifestyle perspective.
Yeah.
Um, but food is a totally different beast. So it took me a while. It actually didn't learn until my husband, because he's a photographer as well. He got his first DSLR, and oh my gosh, I will never forget this. He pulled it out and just was like showing me the camera and everything. And I went to go take a picture. Well, the automatic sensor, whatever, with the red dots saying that you're like in focus.
Yes.
Anyways, I kept trying to press the button and it wouldn't take a picture. And I was like, babe, this camera is broken. Like, I don't know what's going on with it. Like, it was just terrible, terrible. So I definitely read the manual and figured it out
Yeah.
and, redeemed myself in some way on how to take photos with a DSLR. So
Were there some role models that you were looking to at that time in your life, or like people that were
oh
blogging that
yeah.
you followed?
I my man, I'm trying to think of. I was definitely following Joy the Baker for sure,
Yeah.
and Jess from How Sweets Eats. I thought that she just had a real natural way of doing it. Those are a couple of the few of the ones I'm trying to think of. I mean, Pioneer Woman was definitely the forefront because I started blogging when I was 2010. So I mean, it was still like an up and coming of people trying to figure out food photography. So.
Yeah. And she had a lot of great tips on her site. I remember I'd never even heard of the Pioneer Woman, and here I was doing all this stuff, and then someone pointed her out to me, and like, oh, there are other people out here doing it. Honestly, like I was following 101 cookbooks, and I didn't even know that was a blog.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. I
Yeah.
was like, this is a legit website.
Yeah.
Right. I did not know what blogging
Yeah, it was
was or
just
any of that stuff.
new recipes all the
blogging.
time. I didn't think of it like a blog.
That's so true. That's so true.
So it's kind of funny to kind of think back to those days, but yeah, that's cool.
It was such a wild time. Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, so what's some things that you found that you really love about food blogging?
Oh my gosh. I love creating recipes. I feel like that is something that I never realized I would gravitate so much towards. Just thinking of different ways of manipulating a recipe. That's kind of what more I've known for, just because I take a lot of my travels and just manipulate it into a different way of presenting it. I should say putting food in like a different vehicle, so to speak.
What do you mean
and
by
that's
that?
where. So like, taking like, a Reuben sandwich and turning it into like a chowder or like, just those kinds of different
Yeah.
ways of pushing food. It's familiar comfort food, but, in a new presentation or like I said, a new vehicle. So to me, that's where like I feel really inspired and feel really good about food blogging. It's just creating those, different kind of recipes.
I mean, food blogging is like create your own adventure, isn't it? I mean, you can just do
Yes.
so much with it.
Yes. And I do have a day job, but this is also like my, bread and butter. Like it's something that's just so near and dear to my heart I love feeling that entrepreneurial cap and
Yes.
wearing that. So
Yeah.
to me, that's where I love it.
I'm reading that book by Elizabeth Gilbert called Big Magic. Have you heard of that book?
I haven't. What's it about?
It's really about like creating magic in your life as a creative person. And she talks about like letting go of fear. And some of that letting go of fear to live a more creative life is really about like finding opportunities and creating space for magic in your life. And when I say magic, I don't mean like, top hat. And I mean, she's really talking, I mean, I guess you could call it kind of a metaphysical experience
Right.
but there's just all kinds of stuff. You have to read it. It's a really, really good book. But anyway, she talks about how important it is not to quit your day job, because sometimes when you do that, you put too much pressure on the art, and that then somehow squelches it a little bit.
Right. And I mean, I've had long talks about like, quitting my day job or, just trying to do blogging full time. And,
Yeah.
I just haven't met that road yet where I'm just like, I'm okay to leave that, my job. But it's, I feel like a lot of times like people too forget to daydream. I mean, that's a big one for me in terms of just like, because do you remember like back in the day before phones and everything, when you were in the checkout line for the grocery store, you probably did a lot of people watching, or you picked up a magazine, or you noticed like you were really observant. Like to me, you had that time to kind of figure out, letting your mind just wander for a little while. And I feel like that whole aspect is kind of just, kind of faded away. And I feel like people, especially me, like I at least take 5 minutes out of the day just to kind of daydream and just let my mind go where it needs to go. And I think that is just really beneficial just to kind of let your brain, just see where it goes and being creative. I think it just helps.
I love that. And in fact, for me, that means I have to turn off that. I have this internal food blogger that lives in my head. I have to turn her off. Like she's constantly writing a recipe or, oh, this would be good on a blog post. I got to turn that head off every now and then,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's like having like 8,000 tabs open on a computer. Like what was that saying or whatever it was? Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. I swear to you, I could probably count. It's not quite at 8,000, but it's close. My husband's always, he looks at my computer and he's like, are you kidding me? So that's what our brains are doing sometimes. It's like we've got 8,000 tabs open at the same time.
Yes. Exactly. You need to close those tabs and just, 5 minutes of just whatever your brain happens to go down, just go with it. So.
Restart, right?
Yeah.
I love that. Okay. So one of the main reasons I wanted to talk with you today is that we're going to be talking about the art of pitching, because I think it's something that a lot of people, I think it's probably one of to me, the scariest parts about working with a brand is reaching out to some brand and pitching them to work with them. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, sure. I feel like starting off in food blogging back in 2010, things have definitely changed for good and for bad. I think there's also pitching is definitely kind of an art form. I think that the more you can do prep ahead of time before you even write the email is going to serve you very long term. And I kind of go through like a 4-step process before I even type up an email. And so I call it kind of like a pre-pitch ceremony, if you will. And
do you light a candle?
Yeah, I probably should, just spread some good juju around. Right?
Yes.
Okay. But one of the first things I always ask myself is, if I'm looking at a brand and I've narrowed it down, one of the first things I ask is, why do I want to work with this brand? Or why am I passionate about working with this brand? And, really, why does this brand make me giddy? And I have to list 3 things, and money can't be one of them, because I feel like money is a deterrent. I think like that's just an easy target just to write down. And with that, you just, when you're looking at the brand and you're writing down your 3 things that make you excited, you kind of need to do your due diligence on that. You need to look at their site, look at, the way they communicate with other people, or, what really makes you excited about working with them.
I like that.
Yeah. And then I kind of, step 2 really is I go into what are my specific talents / skills that I want to use when working with this brand. I love photography. Maybe someone's really good at video or, Instagram, marketing, or whatever it is, campaigns outside of the brand itself. Something that your specific talents. And I write those down. And then the third step, I go into how do my specific skills translate into value for that brand. So this is where just it's going to take a little bit of work in terms of like saying, hey, I want to use my video making skills to make a recipe video using their new product.
Right.
And I feel like it's very important here to list at least 3 to 5, because when you're going into the email, you really, really want to highlight, that you're not just kind of a one-trick pony, because you're a very, valuable person. Mm-hmm. So you just want to go in there and, write as many ideas as you possibly can and apply those. And I also think you have to kind of keep writing this down. Keep telling yourself, that I've got value. I do have the talent. I know that I can bring something to the table, because really at the end of the day, pitching is business 101. And I think it's extremely important now more than ever to set yourself up for a potential relationship with a brand rather than just a simple transaction. And you do that by creating value when you talk about, those skill sets.
And don't you think some of that value that you bring is, in other words, I'm trying to say this right, you have to think of yourself as equal or some equality there, because if you're looking up to them as better than you, then you're probably not going to be able to deliver much, like you say, value to this transaction.
Right. You know what you're worth. Because you wouldn't be doing this if you didn't. And I feel like people really, first of all, you just need to know, what it is that you want to do and be able to apply that. Yes. Yeah. But at the same time, I feel like this is kind of a frustrating point for bloggers. Yeah. We really look at, working with a brand and pitching them as just like, hey, I'm just sending out these blast emails. And yeah, you may hear one back, kind of just the law of averages on that. Someone will say yes. But what you really want to hear from is somebody that, when you're saying I have value, is creating a relationship and not just a simple transaction. And that's right. What you're doing in all this pre-work is you're establishing your value and yourself. Lauren, and I feel like that's super important.
Lauren, I feel like you're like the brand whisperer, like Caesar Milan looking down the face of an angry dog, and you're just like,
Yeah.
And I think that's what you're trying to tell people. I mean, this is what I'm getting out of it, at least, is that you got to go through these prep steps so that you feel confident when you go into that negotiation with the brand. That makes all kinds of sense.
Right. No, it totally is. I mean, it's funny because I figured, when back in the day, I did mass emails. I was always out there just saying, hey, I've got these great skills, I pitched to a brand saying, hey, I'm a good recipe developer and photographer, and, send them my media kit. And I was like, oh man, I'm going to be swimming in the Skrilla. I'm going to be this world famous blogger. It's all going to be epic. And I was like, I have the most brilliant equation ever. Well, I mean, soon I kind of realized over time that, I really wasn't giving all of my value. Like I wasn't providing anything. And I think in pitching, that is so important to say, these are my skills. This is why I'm adding value. And I feel like that nurtures a relationship, which I think is so important long-term.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
Okay, I think you were on step. What is your fourth? You said you had 4 steps.
Yeah. Sorry. So the fourth step, this kind of goes into, and I feel like this is a hard question it's a kind of a hard question to ask yourself, is saying, what am I willing to walk away from should my known value not be met? So when I say that, what I mean is write down 3 things that if something goes awry, like the brand says, no, we want you to go do X, Y, and Z. No, we're not paying you this amount of much. You want to write down 3 things that protect you from falling down the rabbit hole, because you really, based on, the first step, asking like why you're excited to work with this brand, you probably really do want to work with this brand. So if you have these kind of filters on or alerts to say, hey, you know what, I'm okay walking away if three certain criteria aren't met. And it keeps you from, wasting your time. And it really takes the emotion out of it. It really helps you center in and make it a business, situation. It's kind of like, what I'm going to say, it's kind of like going on like on a date. Like if the guy looks like Zac Efron, drives a great car, and has a house in the Hamptons or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But if before you go on the date, you've listed off alerts to yourself saying, you know what, if he treats the waiter like poop or whatever, then I'm okay walking away. And then you make room for the next brand that will value what it is you want to do.
I like that. That is such a good tip. And I mean, some of those actually happen after you started working with them as well, right?
Right, right. Right. But I feel like that's an important step in pre-pitching, because once you get into negotiation, there's so much back and forth. And if you have that, that mindset going in of what you're willing not to budge on, it can really help you and just, help formulate and, reiterate like what your value is and what you see yourself as and what you feel like your best skills are. So to me, I just feel like it's something that it just, like I said, it just takes the emotion out of it, which is hard to do.
Yes, very true. I agree with that. So tell me, how do you decide what brands that you're going to pitch? Because I can see this whole rationale for, going towards the larger brand because they've got the better budgets. But then there's the smaller brands that may not have the bigger budgets, but they're more willing to work with you in a way that, gives you some freedom and creativity. So I'm curious what your thoughts are on that.
So it's hard. Everyone has their different capacities of what they, go after. Bigger brands, smaller brands, like brands that haven't worked with bloggers yet. Mm-hmm. I think it's good, whatever it is you're doing. I feel like, or particular in my case, I try to get out of my comfort zone and pitch a brand that's like, I feel like in the blogging world, everybody puts brands in like a bigger brand, like one that we all know, like we can't get into them. They only talk to bloggers with like a zillion page views or whatever, blah, it is. I think it's okay to pitch them. And I think that, I try to do that, try to push myself to reach out to these bigger brands and, even reach out to some that don't have a blog following, because I think that there's a lot of potential for, to build relationships. I feel like that's the most important part.
I like that. I like that you said that, because it sounds to me like if you want to pitch to a bigger brand, you just have to put a little bit more work into it and expect that, you're going to get rejected and just kind of keep at it. Do you think that's...
Yeah. Well, but you have to understand that, like I said, it is a business and you have to bring something to the table.
Yeah.
And I feel like now even more so than ever, it's so important to, really do your due diligence and ask yourself, how am I going to help this brand? And if you see that skill and you can, mesh those worlds together, then I think you're unstoppable.
Wonderful. Okay, so we've talked about the preparation. We've talked about some ideas of brands that you might, want to pitch to. What does the pitch look like?
So, like I mentioned before, everybody has their own idea of because it's kind of just an art form, but I can kind of just give you a basic structure of what I do. The first and foremost is when you start a pitch, it's your elevator speech. Your first paragraph is, I've kind of read it, like if you can't say what it is you're doing in a couple of minutes, then you just really need to go back to the drawing board. So when you start that, just say, hi, my name is, so-and-so. I write a food and travel website, and just go into it as what you are. And then from there, the second paragraph, this is kind of where you want to paint the picture of your skills and why they need to work with you. Emphasis on need.
Yeah.
So in a way, you're kind of educating the brand by simply highlighting not necessarily an oversight of the brand, but something that they aren't seeing that your skills will help bring to life. So don't be afraid here to, kind of mention 2 or 3 ideas. This will kind of help showcase the brand that you aren't just kind of like a one-trick pony. And in that, and in saying those 3 examples or those 3 ideas, that really showcases your personality. So, and that's, I think, is extremely important, because I feel like brands, just get these mass pitches. And I feel like if you have these, distinct ideas and go and apply it to a brand that's like, a bigger brand that's probably overlooking like maybe a small niche area or product that they're really not highlighting, then that's where you target it and that's where you create that need.
Yeah, so for example, using what you said earlier, you could probably pitch that you have this knack for taking a traditional recipe and kind of flipping it on its side, and here's some, there's some things that you could do with their products as a result.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Or as it can be simple as that, it can be like, hey, have you guys ever thought about, branching out and doing a different campaign with a different product? I mean, it can be anything, but definitely I think it's really just important just to, like I said, bring that value to that table and showcase that your skills can really help and they need to hire you.
Yes.
So, and then with that, I kind of do a little bit of wrap up and saying, I'm looking forward to hearing from you. And I would actually not send your media kit.
Okay.
The first pitch round.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of people may disagree with me, and that's totally fine. It's whatever you feel comfortable with. Yeah. But I actually think that you're automatically entering yourself into a transactional pitch. So to me, I just don't think that you need to necessarily just like, here I am, this is what I'm worth. Right. Like you want them to establish that, you know what, I kind of need to talk to this chick. Like, I feel like she's got something going. Then if she's, if they say, hey, we're kind of interested and can you send me your media kit? Then at least they have a notion of just who you are, right? Without the, the background, the page views and blah, 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 blah. So
I like that too, because it seems like it keeps it short and succinct. Like, yes. It feels to me like when a pitch goes on too long, it's almost like you've kind of given away the farm. There's no curiosity left in it. So people don't respond sometimes. I think when I've kept my pitches shorter, I get a greater response.
Yes, and I think you have to. It's like dating. I mean, you just don't want to give away all the goodies at first. Yeah. So you kind of got to leave a little mystery of like, what's going on? What's behind this other curtain here?
Yes, right. Keep them coming back.
Right. And so once you're kind of done, you wrap it up. You send it. Really, from there, you go into post-pitch, I should say. You'll either go into proposal negotiation, or the brand will go into nurturing. And what that means is, if you're going into proposal negotiation, the brand's like, okay, we're interested. And now we haven't even talked about money yet. You have to realize that money should never be discussed at all in the first pitch email. Because like you said, you just want to be able to establish that there is a need. They need to hire you. They will die without your services. So, so then like once you do that, they say, yes, we're interested. Then you can go into the art of negotiation. And I feel like this is a hard area for some people. I mean, it was for me as well, because I feel like there's a kind of a dance to it. Right. A lot of people want to just automatically send the work scope in, here's all everything you need to know about me, blah, blah, blah. But I feel like it's okay to like just take a time out for a second and just realize, what are they asking from you? So, if they just want like, can you give me an idea of how much it would cost for like writing just a recipe? You can send that to them, but then also maybe throw in like, well, hey, did you know that I also do X, Y, and Z with that?
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just kind of like filtering and keeping that ebb and flow of like, just not all wiping them all out at once. And I feel like that just keeps that relationship building and just keeps a really good cadence, I should say.
I like what you're talking about, nurturing that relationship. So if they come back and say, we're interested, but we're not working with bloggers at this time, would you recommend, maybe once a quarter or, every now and then reaching out to them and saying, hey, still here? Let me know if you ever want to work together, that kind of thing?
Yeah. So I kind of, this is a whole financial industry term, but it's nurturing process. So nurturing prospective clients is what they say. So basically you go into your every 2 weeks for the first couple months. Then you go to once a month, then once a quarter, and then by a year's end, if you don't hear anything from them or they just keep pushing you off or whatever it is, then you know what? You have a right to tell them, hey, I just wanted to let you know that this is my final touch base email with you. And this is kind of an old adage of like, you know what, my offer still stands with you, but I do have some interested clients that are loving my idea right now that, but I wanted to give you a heads up first since I talked to you about it. So it's kind of that old,
Right.
hey, just to let I've got some other lookers on here, it's
It
just
kind
like,
of,
to me, like it's okay just to say like, either
yeah.
you're done with them, or if you personally want to move on, that's fine too. But I also think it's okay just to say, hey, you know what? To bring back the original pitch idea if you
Yes.
want to say goodbye. So, and I think that's okay.
And what I like about that is it gives them an out. If they, for example, if they're waiting, that it may be that they're waiting for a higher up to make a decision, and
Yeah.
it gives them an opportunity to respond and not feel guilty that they haven't responded to your previous emails, and just say, here's where we're at, and hold on a little bit
Right.
longer or whatever.
Right. Well, and I also think that, like you said, it's just they're not saying no
Yeah.
until someone literally tells you to like piss off or something. There's still opportunity there.
Right.
There's always an opportunity. So just don't get discouraged on that, because I feel like a lot of companies, are just it's all timing, to tell you the truth.
Yes, and a little bit of luck is involved with that as well. Then, right?
Yes, it is. It is. But, it's one of those things. And, like I said, nurturing, if that doesn't, I feel like a lot of actually 8 times out of 10, it actually usually does work. It just, you got to have patience. And I think that's a big one as well. Also, something to think about, let's say the client does, is it great. You work with them. It's wonderful. Get on the phone and call them after the process is done, because I feel like a phone call is so, just no one does it anymore. And I feel like to get on the phone with like someone that you work with, and tell them, hey, what worked, what didn't, what can we do better, and bring another idea to the table, just keeps adding, flames and fuel to that
I
relationship,
love that.
to keep that nurturing, or keep that going, I should say.
And
So.
that's I'm just curious, would that be something you would ever put in like your next pitch to another company? Like, company X really loved working with me because here's a quote from them, or that kind of thing.
Yeah. So actually, that's funny that you mentioned that. So I'm actually trying to do that with my travel site as well.
Yeah.
Get tourism boards to write reviews for me, and
Yes.
include that in there. Cause I think that's really a powerful way
Yeah.
to say like, oh, I really enjoyed working with this person, and just to kind of bring it full circle.
It makes you stand out a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah, it does for sure.
And plus that follow up, like you were just saying, I think it almost could fit into that nurturing prospective clients.
Yeah, absolutely.
Your previous client is also prospective client, right? I mean, they could be the next client that you've got. So keeping that relationship
communicate.
going.
Always communicate and never assume. That is a big, never assume anybody is thinking a certain way. I feel like that is a big business one. Always never assume. So.
Don't you be the admission committee. That's what someone told me when I was applying to graduate school. Like,
oh yeah,
you never know what they're looking for. So don't not apply because you think, oh, they'll never choose me. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Just
yeah.
put yourself out there and give it a try.
Right. Absolutely. What's the word? Like you said, what's the worst they're going to say is no. And then you just continue to, like I said, nurture that relationship until it is not an opportunity, or it will be. So.
Yes. And then here's another idea. What if one of those follow-up emails, in the meantime, you've worked with another brand, and then you could follow up and say, here's a quote from this brand I worked with, and they said, how good I am to work with. I'm just trying to think of things, like I say, that can help a person stand out when they're pitching to brands.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I feel like definitely reviewing, that could not hurt at all.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So any other tips on the art of pitching?
Oh man,
you covered a lot.
Practice. To be honest, like have somebody look over your pitch emails, because what you're thinking and saying may not actually be what it is you're trying to say on the email. Mm-hmm. I know that I have my husband look over everything, because he's just like, what are you trying to say here? He's like, you just say it, like the old writing term is just say it.
Yes.
So I think that's another big one as well.
I do that with a lot of my writing, because I'll go into all of these explanations, and it's like, wait a minute, just say it. I don't need to say why I'm saying it, just say it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. writing is just one of those things. I think it's constant. It's like photography or anything else. It's constantly, practicing and evolving with it. So
Yeah, I think the more you do it, the better you're going to get, like anything else. But yeah.
wonderful. So I think we covered a lot. I think we gave everybody a lot of, really good information. I just have kind of a follow-up question, really.
Okay.
What's one tip that you would give to bloggers out there that are, maybe they're new and they're trying to grow their audience? Do you have any tips on that?
Oh man. I feel like there's so many.
Yeah. What's worked for you? Something that's worked for you?
So I would say, be yourself, obviously, I say that's an easy one to say, but I feel like it's very true.
Yes.
Do not listen to like what's going on, and just, do what works for you, because I feel like a lot of people get stuck of like, she's doing this, I'm not doing this, what's
Yes.
going on, I'm not staying on top, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
I mean, the list could go on forever.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you just stay true to who you are. And you know what? I feel like a lot of, and I've actually learned this from my friend Liz, is just, you know what? Just be happy for people and what they're accomplished. I feel like people get so stuck in, oh my gosh, she has like working with this brand and she's in a cookbook now and blah, blah, blah. I'm not doing anything. You know what? If you turn that energy around and just say, I am super excited for her, that will free up so much more energy for you to focus on you. And I feel like that is it takes discipline, but you know what? Once you nail it, I'm telling you, there's nothing that you can't do.
You're right, because you know what? When you're envious of other people or, kind of putting them down for being successful, it's like a scarcity mindset. Like you're thinking there's not enough for everybody. And so you're mad that they got it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what if there is enough for everybody and you can get yours too? You just have to, like you say, change your mindset. Okay. I love it. I'm high-fiving you right now.
Yeah, no, that's my biggest one. I would say that's my biggest one. Yeah.
I love it. That's really good. Okay. Here we are at the end of the interview, and I've just got a couple of fun, quick questions for you. What's one food item you can't live without?
Oh my gosh. Chorizo. I love chorizo.
You put it on everything?
I do. Oh my gosh. We probably eat chorizo tacos like 3 times a week. I make enchiladas. Like, I love chorizo.
So you must like spicy.
I love spicy food.
Me too.
That's why I'm not a baking blog. I love savory, spicy food. I guess my second thing would probably be jarred jalapenos. Like I put them on everything.
Jarred jalapenos.
Yeah, that's like they're a close like second, but that's where I dabble in. So
those, I always have some in the fridge, and it goes on chili. It goes on lots of stuff. It's really good.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, spicier the better as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I love spicy food, and I didn't like spicy food until I got married. My husband is a avid Tabasco user.
Yeah,
and now I put that on everything too. That may be my third thing, actually.
Tabasco.
So. Yeah.
And there's so many flavors of Tabasco now. It's just really amazing.
Yeah, I know. They're great.
Okay, what's the favorite app on your phone?
Favorite app right now? Oh man, so many. I'm actually looking at my phone right now. I want to say my editing app. I love Camera Plus.
Ooh.
That's my favorite editing, just because you can do a lot of different stuff, and it's 99 cents. And I don't know. I do. That's probably my favorite, just because I'm constantly editing photos if I need to, or taking pictures.
So you can take pictures on your phone and then edit them on your phone?
Yeah.
And then after that, you load them up to Instagram or things like that?
Correct. Although Instagram really has good editing tools as well. I will say they have definitely gotten way better on that end. So
yep, I used to run everything through, but at the same time, it's fun to have your pictures really stand out. So that's a smart idea.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so do you have any time for TV? And if so, what's your favorite show?
Oh my gosh, TV, Netflix, Amazon,
all
psychos. Like,
can you pick a favorite one then?
I know, right? So we just watched Stranger Things.
I just heard about that one. Oh, that's so cool.
Oh my gosh. Just set aside 8 hours and just do it, because it's kind of like Goonies meets X-Files. It's brilliant. So yeah.
Sounds great.
Yeah, that's what we just finished that up. So that's what we were liking right now.
So you're kind of obsessed with it, and that's the only thing. It's so disappointing. It's like you just can't wait to get to the end, and then when you get to the end, you're like, oh, no more.
I know it's especially like with Netflix and Amazon Prime now that you can just like zip through all of the series.
Yeah.
Like you're just like, this is not fair on so many levels.
I actually try to exercise some discipline, and like right now I'm binge watching Jane the Virgin. I don't know if you've heard about that show. Have you heard about it?
No, I have. Yeah.
Oh, it's such a great show. But each episode is 40 minutes. I feel like that's kind of a long haul for me. So I will, and they're not easy to, it's not like you can do other things as you watch them. So, because there's actually things that happen on the screen, like there's a narrator that does some typing. So you really kind of need to watch the show. And so,
well, I'm adding that to my list. So,
it is it's like a fun summer romance novel. I mean, it's just fun, and the plot is a little over the top, but it's done in such a great way. It's really good. But anyway, this is about your favorite shows, not mine. But anyway, I really do like that show.
I'm taking more suggestions. So.
Good. Okay, how can people find you online, Lauren?
Okay, so all of my social media is Grier Mountain, Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, but you can definitely find me on my full website, which is just climbinggriermountain.com.
And that's Grier is Grier.
Yeah, not like Richard Gere, unfortunately. So
I could ask if there was a relationship, but there's a relation.
You believe me, I get that question quite a lot. So.
I bet. I would just say, he's my cousin.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, thanks so much for taking the time to talk with me. I had a wonderful time.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun.
Thanks so much to Lauren Grier for being my guest on today's episode of the Chopped Podcast. Be sure to go to choppedpodcast.com to learn more about today's show. Thank you so much to everyone for your reviews of this podcast on iTunes and Stitcher, social media as well. It has been a fun ride, and I have really enjoyed this journey with you so much. You inspire me, and I hope today's show was helpful and inspirational to you as well. Thanks for listening, and have a great week.